any skill to get it done. We will be doing shaving cream art and floating chalk art. So, we're gonna start with our shaving cream art. For this activity, you will need foam shaving cream, cardstock paper, liquid watercolor paints, or food coloring. And I just want to point out one quick thing. So with the food coloring, you get more vivid pictures, but you have the tendency to smear those colors. With the watercolor paints, you have more of the pastels, but they'll stay on that paper a whole lot easier. You also need something to squeegee it off with, so you can use a squeegee, or you can also use a tongue depressor. Any size works, and we have a lot of sizes here at camp. Lastly, you need something to contain the shaving cream. So we are using a plastic container. You can also use a baking pan, a casserole pan, a baking sheet, anything that will lay out that shaving cream and keep it contained. Just a second. Last thing you need is either a popsicle stick, or you can use toothpicks, but you need something to marbleize that colors.
Good evening. Go ahead and call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. February 6, 2023. I have 6:30 on the nose. Roll call. We're 5 commissioners here this evening. Commissioner McCatherine and Commissioner Earls are not in attendance. We do have a quorum. We're at the point where introduction and agenda and format of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So for each item tonight, we'll have a call to order followed by a staff report. Afterwards, the applicant will have their opportunity to make their presentation, followed by public comment in either support or opposition to the project. At that time, please state your name and address for the record. Be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. Afterwards, the commission and staff will have their discussion. The commission tonight will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. Items that are going to the city council will go for consideration of the zone change and conditional use permits at the February 20th, 2023 date. And then on the agenda, one item is being removed. That's the plat, the final plat for Charleston Heights. They've got some BDD4 issues that they're working through that came up unexpectedly. And then we've got consent agenda with approval of some absences and then approval of minutes. And then we've got the lot variance for the 3-to-1 depth to width ratio within the Old Town Residential District. A zone change for property at the southwest corner of the Beltway and Hooper Road, and then a conditional use permit for a wireless communication tower on the top end of Main Street. With that, I will hand it over to you, Chair, to go through the consent.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned, we are at the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and require little or no deliberation by Planning and Zoning Commission. These items will be approved by one motion unless a commissioner requests separate action on an item, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, considered by separate action. Approval of the consent agenda and acts the items of legislation. Do we have any consent agenda items that need to be removed? None. All right. Item A, consideration of possible action, excuse the absence of Commissioner Andrew Earls from the January 17th, 2023 meeting. And item B, consideration of possible action, approval of the minutes from the January 17th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Fortes' motion for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Heisenberg, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Passes 5-0. On to new business, item number 6, consideration of possible action, VARP 23-01, variance from the minimum lot width, minimum lot area, and maximum 3-to-1 lot depth to lot width ratio in the OT-R district, Old Town. A request by Kathy Fontenot, Survey One Inc., applicant on behalf of, I believe it's Ornery Family Limited, owner for approval of a variance permitted in section 2.6.1.1 B1 of the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 2000-T, from section 2.4.3.4 B2A to allow the creation of 4 lots, 3 of which are less than the minimum lot width and minimum lot area in the OT-R district, and from the section 3.2.14.2C to allow the 3 lots that exceed the maximum 3-to-1 lot depth to lot width ratio described to wit, general location 2102 North Austin Avenue. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved for approval.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
All right. Staff report.
Before we get too far into that, Ms. Hendricks, Just for clarification, is there any conflict of interest on this one with the engineering?
I'm not aware of this project. If you want me to double check.
Harvey mentioned that JRH had the civil contract on this. So just
Okay.
wanted to make sure if we needed to recuse you or not.
I believe, if my memory serves, I had the meeting with Jason. So
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it's-
to keep it moving along, I can just step out. Sometimes Jason knows of things that it's not on my radar. I don't know what's going on, so.
I was
can
going to
do that.
suggest it would be easier and better because we would still have a quorum.
Yeah.
Easier and better for you to step out in this today, fill out the conflicts of interest affidavit tomorrow if you're warranted. The only harm is that you might not get to decide on something that you wanted to decide on, versus if you stayed here, the harm could be somebody file an ethics complaint against you.
No, it's fine. Let's do that. I'll step out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if we could get another.
And I was going to say, and if Commissioner Hendricks is stepping out, she was the second. So
Second.
thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. We'll give her just a moment to step out, and then I will hand over staff report and presentation to Florence Buaku to present this case. Florence, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. This request is for three separate variances on the same property. One would be a variance from the minimum lot area requirement, then a variance from the minimum lot width requirement, as well as a variance from the maximum 3:1 lot depth to width ratio in the Old Town Residential District. The location is 2102 North Austin, and the intent is to develop the property for townhomes and one duplex. So before you is the zoning map of the property showing the property as zoned Old Town Residential. It's surrounded by similar zoning to the east, west, and south, and to the north is the general commercial zoning district. The Old Town Residential District allows the proposed use. This is an aerial showing the context of the site. The site is surrounded by a number of duplexes to the west and to the south, and then single-family homes to the east. And across towards the north is the city-owned property. So these are views of the subject property showing the duplexes to the east and to the south of the subject property, to the west and to the south. This is the future land use showing the property with future land use designation of medium density residential, which supports the proposed use. And what you have is the proposed plat. There are going to be 4 lots. The property is being subdivided into 4 lots. One of the lots would meet the minimum lot requirements for the Old Town Residential District. Then 3 of the lots which are being proposed for the townhomes would not meet that. And the minimum lot area in the Old Town Residential District is 5,000 square feet. The lots that you have on the screen are a little over 3,000 square feet, each of them. And then the minimum lot width is 50 feet. We have the lots showing between 24 and almost 30 feet, 29.5 feet in width. And also the lot depth to width ratio, the lot is much longer than it is wide. They are narrow lots for townhomes, and so it does not meet that requirement. But because the proposed use is for townhomes, it took us back to the townhome district, which has a minimum lot width of 30 feet. And so that is kind of similar to what is being proposed. What is being proposed is just a little less than the minimum 30 feet required for townhomes. We also looked at the context of this development being surrounded by similar development, that is the duplexes. And so based on that, we did evaluate it. Mohammed, if you can move on to, okay. So this is a closer view of the plat, just showing the 3 lots, lots 2 to 4, and then the 1 lot that meets the minimum requirements. And so we did evaluate it according to the criteria outlined in the Unified Development Code. As you can see, it does not meet about half of the criteria, but based on the proposed use and also the context of the lot, staff is still recommending approval of the variance to reduce the lot width, the minimum lot width, minimum lot area, as well as the variance from the lot depth to width ratio. That concludes staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Is the applicant here for the presentation? When you arrive to the podium, if you state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Fontenot. I'm with Survey One, and our address, physical or the mailing, doesn't matter. Our physical address is 2408 Mustang Road, Alvin, Texas 77511. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have regarding this project.
Great. That concludes your presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Hearing none, seeing none. If you do, for this item or any upcoming items, there's a green piece of paper. You filled that out, take it up here, Ms. Shelby, and they'll get you on the speakers list. There are green pieces of paper out front if you haven't done so, just in case. All right. Hearing no, seeing no comments from the public, staff, commission, applicant discussion. Anyone have any comments?
Just real quick, these seem to be in somewhat conformance, or at least similar to other lots, as Ms. Buaku stated. So I'll be in favor of it. I guess just a general question, just for education. 25-foot lot in Old Town site is somewhat customary. If you go down to the, I'm thinking of the ones where the Sullivan Brothers project, all those were platted 25 feet. That was years and years ago. Their depth is 100 and something feet, if I'm not mistaken, 110 or 125. So are all of those sites out of compliance? And if the answer is, well, kind of yes, do we need to change our rules within an Old Town site to not have these variance requests?
Yes and no. So those lots are written as legal descriptions. People have purchased them, throughout the years. The city does not recognize that plat as being an official plat because it has no signatures on it. So that's one of our little legal quirks. So that's part of the reason why they have to go back through this process. As we've discussed through the comprehensive plan, Old Town site needs a finer look, and part of that is developing better regulations for Old Town site. So if this is, once the comprehensive plan, it goes through its last few hurdles, and this type of development is the preferred outcome for that area, we can move forward with drafting new rules for that.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Anyone else? All right. I'm in agreement. Don't necessarily have anything opposing this either. All right, we have a first and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed. Motion carries 4-0 with one abstaining. Commissioner Hendricks will, if she can hear me, she's welcome back to the party. As she makes her way up here, as a reminder, item 2 was removed from the meeting this evening. We move to item 3. Consideration and possible action, zone change application zone 22-32. Public hearing request by Catherine Beckett, HDR Inc., applicant on behalf of Heelgen Scientific LLC, owner, for approval of a zone change from light industrial or M1 district to planned development PD district, incorporating approximately 6.4566 acres of land into the LNR Clear Creek Plan Development, to wit, general location being southwest corner of Sam Houston Parkway West and Hooper Road. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve, Commissioner Fortis.
Second.
Second.
All right. We have a first and a second. A staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Mohammed Brima to present this case. Mohammed, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Martin. Good evening. Zoning case 22-32 is a request for approval of a zone change from for approximately 6.5 acres of land from the light industrial M1 district to planned development PD district, incorporating this land into the existing LNR Clear Creek Plan Development. Subject property is located at the southwest corner of Sam Houston Tollway and Hooper Road. Staff did not receive public comments on this request. Zoning map on the screen shows the property currently located within the light industrial zoning district. It's the M1, it's the purple area. It's also surrounded by planned development. It's the LNR planned development to the east, across the street from Hooper Road. And to the north, it's the city limit line, so that's outside the city boundary, Sam Houston Road. The future land use plan shows this property located within the Lower Kirby Urban Center. So almost that entire area is within that same designation. This is a location map and just showing the surrounding land uses. As you can see, predominantly undeveloped area to the west, to the south, and also across the street from Hooper. There's potential development coming up right now. It's under review, and on the north side is the highway. Moving to the history of this property was annexed into the city in 2001, remained undeveloped, and currently not platted. Just a little bit of information about the LNR PD. It was approved back in 2004, and this request would be the fourth addendum to that PD to incorporate more land and more development within that same area into this PD. The previous annexation into this PD was phase 2 of the Lonza project. It was done in 2009, I believe, 2019, sorry. And there was another annexation that took place also about a year ago. That was for property just to the east of this subject property. And then we have one that's currently going to city council for another property on the south end of Hooper, between Kirby and Hooper. and I don't remember that other street. Rouget. Thank you.
So where the horses are,
What was that?
where the horses are.
Exactly. Yeah. So this will be the fourth incorporation into that same PD. A few pictures showing the site. So this is taken looking back towards the property. You can see the property in the back. It's just still heavily vegetated. So this is the kind of corner of Hooper and the tollway. The tollway will be on the right side. This is kind of another view from Hooper as well, looking directly towards that property. So talking a little bit about this this incorporation into this PD, it will have a base zoning of mixed-use industrial district, or also called District B in that PD. So that PD is already established PD that has several base zoning. One of them is the mixed-use industrial district. So this is what this property will be designated for. It will also allow this property to comply with the design guidelines of the PD, which means that Hooper will be everything that will be done along Hooper that will be in compliance with the guidelines of the PD. The future occupant of this site will be Hilgen Scientific LLC, and their plan to develop a 4-story building on the subject property, which will be their U.S. headquarters. The proposed building will consist of offices. Those are not related to the zone change, but this is what the intent is. And to have offices, common space, and research development labs. This zone change will allow the applicant to develop the property with similar characteristics and design standards as the adjacent properties, like the Inres Hauser to the east of this development. So, talking about deviations, they're actually also incorporating some deviations from the PD, and those including a change to allow to increase the allowance for accent material on the elevation. So they're asking for increase from 25% to 50% for the upper floors of the building exterior, and that's to accommodate metal panels that they would like to have on the building. The accent material in the PD includes things like metals, stucco, wall panel systems, spandrel wall systems, and stone veneer. So they would like to have more metal, at least on one side, and we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to their conceptual elevations. Second deviation is to allow a change for more glazing on the facade. Currently, the PD allows for a balance between the glazing and the solid, and so they would like to increase that up to 80% for glazing, so that they can develop this property to be their headquarters. So they would like to have more glass on the building. Next one is to allow to allow more flexibility on colors to be included. So they'd like to include the natural, materials and color that would have the natural color of the materials that will be used in the building. So currently, the PD has a palette of colors that's included there. So they just want to expand that a little bit to include the color of natural material as well. And another one is to allow color and stamped concrete. That is something that's not allowed in PD. That will be used in specific locations within their front of the building. So they just want to have that flexibility. It's not that it's something that they will do, but they just want to make sure that they have that ability. This will only be for this particular parcel. And the last one is to be able to attach signage to their exterior glass. And I have some elevations that shows that. Let me get to. We'll get the elevations in a little bit. This is the conformance table, and this zone change meets all of the criteria. The only thing is that they may have to dedicate a little bit of right of way to accommodate a turn, a right turn on the tollway side. So that's a possibility, just depending on when they get to the plating portion. But other than that, everything should be good. They have utilities, water, sewer, everything along Hooper. And it also is consistent with the future land use plan as we discussed before. These are the approval criteria for PD. They meet all the approval criteria. And as far as recommendation, staff recommends approval of the requested change. We have done this for several parcels in that same area. Again, it meets the approval criteria and including comp plan, the goals of the Lower Kirby Urban Center, and that concludes the staff report. And I will try to get that elevation. Oops.
So I've got it. So this is from the applicant's packet and what's available online and what was included in y'all's staff packet report.
That concludes staff report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here for their presentation? All right. Just reminder, state your name and address.
And I'm not seeing a dongle for we have a little PowerPoint, but I'm David Day with HDR, representing the owner, Hilgen Scientific, and the design team's here, the owner's here, and our civil consultants here as well. So the main reason we want to have these provisions, one is to be a part of that.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes.
So we can get that presentation
Yes,
to
absolutely.
coincide with
Thank you
your
so much.
comments.
Oh, I can plug directly in. It's in the back. I didn't think about disconnecting. Thank you. There we go. We covered a lot of the original, the planning, the site, and how it works. I think one of the major reasons is we're trying to develop a project that has distinct character on the north side, which faces the tollway, as well as the south side, which faces more of an urban park, and which lives in the spirit of the Kirby district. And so we're really trying to emphasize those elements, trying to keep it as natural as possible, trying to project an image of high-tech, biotech industry. Just some quick images of the slides. The floor plan has a lot of public space on the ground level. The owner wants to do training, things like that on that ground level, do presentations as well. And then as we go up the building, we're also have the offices and other functions there as well. Some of the material palettes we're looking at are these natural materials, woods, stones, metals. This sort of represents the image from the Beltway, which is a more high-tech look and feel. We have a base of stone along the bottom of the building, which is so that natural anchor to the building, and then it's more transparent above. South side is a little different character because it's facing the South Texas sun, and so we want a little more punched openings there that can allow the light in, but also shade some of and control some of that sun coming in, with the ultimate objective being getting as much natural light into the building without being offensive to the users. General elevations. The glass patterns I think are interesting because it's sort of representing the science that they're practicing and they're bringing into the project. That was the intent of that patterning. And the interior is fairly modern, robust, and it'll be a really unique addition to the city of Pearland. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have any persons here wishing to speak for or against this item? All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Staff, commission, applicant discussion. Anyone have any comments or questions for the applicant?
Typically, we don't have renditions, or we're not encouraged to put a lot of weight into the renditions for a zone change. I'm assuming this is somewhat the same. However, there is an underlying zoning with this Clear Creek. I hope I said the right word. The PD that they're willing to go into. Okay. Well, welcome to town. I believe you guys are located just outside of Pearland, so welcome.
Thank you.
And I apologize if I step out of line, but I think the purpose of the conceptual drawings is to illustrate the justification for the deviations, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Right.
So you could not have a building of this nature according to the current PD regulations.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
So the LNR, which has been a fairly successful plan development, has certain stipulations within it. Most of the developments that have come through have just annexed in and accepted those policies and regulations. Helgen, when they took a look at it, said, we want to do something a little more interesting, but still keep within Subdistrict B. If they went into Subdistrict A has a little more openness to it. But because of the uses that they conduct and do, they felt like Subdistrict B was a little better fit. So that's why some of the architectural deviations are proposed specifically for this site. We've seen a lot of development within LNR. There have been some pain points in between the design team and staff. And hopefully with this type of anomaly, I'd say, with having some additional deviations in with it, will help smooth and make for a better development process.
Got it. Well, that Hauser, I can't remember the first name of the Hauser.
Dries Hauser.
That's a good looking building. And it made me think when I went past it that, or when I do drive past it, that visibility and the glass windows and the openness of it from an architectural standpoint is nice. And it's appears to be more of a sales type building, and I understand that's what this company does, so it fits. So I'm good. This is I just wanted to add, this is a two-step process being combined into one. Step one being the zone change from what it is now to the LNRPD. Step two being the deviations to the LNRPD to allow these type of architectural elements to happen. So your vote tonight is a recommendation to make both of those changes, but the change is limited to this site-specific place. So other places in the LNRPD don't get these deviations unless they come in and ask for them as well.
Is that okay, or should we at some point, not tonight necessarily, but look at the LNRPD, and if we have the opportunity to bring this kind of a corporation entity here, I mean, I don't see this as, I understand the LNRPD says it's a deviation, but I mean, the quality of construction and product is, off the charts. So I wouldn't consider this a deviation from logic by any means.
Right.
It's just we're doing the comp plan, so maybe think about something like that.
No, definitely, this type of development is what we are seeking to inspire within the Lower Kirby district.
Yeah, and like anything else, you build it and they'll come, and you keep building a product like this on the ground and others will follow. So we appreciate y'all being here. Looking forward to having the facility at that location. It's, as previously mentioned, it's kind of the gateway to Kirby and the west side of Pearland. So it's nice to have that kind of a quality as an end cap or a front end cap for that area. So, all right, any other discussion? No? All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks again. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is item number 4, Commission input and discussion, conditional use permit, CUP application 23-02, a public hearing request by Richard Marcus, applicant on behalf of Columns Inc., owner, for approval of a conditional use permit or a CUP to allow the installation of a 104-foot tall wireless communications tower on approximately 9.046476 acres of land within the General Commercial or GC District, general location being 1013 Main Street, Pearland, Texas. Do I have a motion for approval? Oh, I'm sorry, this is a conditional use permit. So as a reminder, on a CUP, we do not vote on a CUP, conditional use permit. We will discuss it, and then at the end, commissioners have been tasked with, if we were to vote, explaining to City Council how we would vote if we were able to do so. And then they are to use our recommendation as a starting point to go from with council. So, staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Mohammed Brima once again to provide the staff report on this, and then we'll look forward to discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Conditional use permit application 23-02 is a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow 104 wireless communication tower on approximately 9 acres of land within the General Commercial District. The property is located at 1013 Main Street. That is just to the south of the intersection of Sam Houston Tollway and Main Street. Staff didn't receive any public comments on the request. There is one phone call that we've received today, I believe from the property owner to the north. He just inquired about, there was some questions about the screening for the tower and things like that. The zoning map on the screen shows the property located within the General Commercial District. It is also surrounded by Residential District R2 to the east, as well as light industrial zoning to the west, just across the street from Main Street, and General Commercial District from the north and south. This is the future land use plan, and it shows the property located within the industrial designation. And this is a area location map, shows the property surrounded by the residential homes to the east, construction company to the south, and then you have the flea market with the food truck park and other type of uses to the west, just across the street. And then you have auto body shop just to the northwest corner of the site. And to the north, there's an undeveloped piece of land. It used to kind of be developed, but right now it's empty. And that area largely is in the floodway. Even this subject property is in the floodway as well. Just a little bit of history. This property was annexed in the 60s The existing structures on the property were developed between 69 and 93. These structures have been used in various ways in the past, mostly warehouses, and at one time as a furniture store. And this property was platted in 2012. I've got some pictures here taken and showing some of those existing buildings and warehouses on the property. So this is kind of from the southwest corner of the building, just looking towards the property. And this is kind of looking directly towards that same property. And so from this picture, you'll see that the tower will be on the opposite, on the back side of these buildings. This is a site plan, and it just reflects the general location of the tower with and the height of the tower, which is 104, and also the proposed ground equipment that will be near the tower base. They're also proposing a, I believe it's a chain link fence or maybe wrought iron fence around the tower. Staff has a different recommendation for that. And this is kind of a closer look at the tower and the tower location and basically the lease area where the equipment will be located, as well as the tower base. And here's the tower, again, 104, with just one rad center or antenna mount for now, with potential for 3 more antenna mounts. And this is a map that was provided by the applicant showing where their potential carrier is located in this area. I believe they're working with T-Mobile. We have a letter from T-Mobile in the staff report in the packet. And T-Mobile is located currently on one tower that's at the corner of McCard and the northeast corner of McCard and Main Street. And they also located on a tower that's owned by Crown Castle that's on the west side of the rail tracks and Macau Road. So it's on the other side of the Macau Road and the rail tracks. These are the conformity table, just looking at the proposed use from the different adopted city plans, comprehensive plan, thoroughfare plan, and from a utility plan. The proposed use is consistent with all of these 4 plans, and looking at the approval criteria for conditional use permits. And the proposed use is consistent with most of these, almost all of them. However, there's some potential, maybe some impacts that could be that may be needed to be remedied in with regard to screening and things like that. Again, it's a 104 high tower, and so realistically, there's no way to screen it, but there could be some things could be added to help with the screening. Again, just staff looked at the proposed use, and again, it's just consistent with the approval criteria and with the intent of the zoning district, the future land use plan, and staff is recommending approval of the request with one condition, and that's related to the ground equipment. Staff would like to see a major screen wall around the ground equipment, just to make sure that the equipment is not visible from adjoining properties and from Main Street. Staff believe that there may be some sufficient vegetation along the east side to screen the tower from the residential subdivision, but the commission is welcome to consider adding maybe additional screening if necessary. And that's concluded staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Is the applicant here for a presentation? If you'll just state your name and your address, please, and phone number.
Richard Marcus, Advantage Engineers, 800 Mariners Drive, Kema, Texas, 77565. Did you need phone number? Oh,
No, I'm just used to saying that at work for some
Okay.
reason. Sorry, thanks.
thank you, sir. As you saw, we're requesting a conditional use permit for the construction of a 104-foot wireless communications tower on North Main Street up near Sam Houston. The reason the location was chosen is there are two towers north of the city. One's about 1.25 miles, another one is almost 2 miles away. They currently have T-Mobile antennas on those structures. And then the other two towers that Mohammed mentioned earlier in the report, T-Mobile has antennas on those also. There's a coverage gap right in the middle. So this new proposed location would be about 1 mile from the nearest tower. And there are currently issues with lost signals and dropped calls due to all the traffic along the tollway. So we're requesting approval of that, or at least your guidance on the conditional use permit. The tower itself will be 0.7 miles from the nearest residence. And as indicated in the staff report, there is quite a bit of natural buffering with the trees to both the south and the east. And again, it is initially is proposed to be with a chain link fence, given that it's in the rear of the property, hidden behind the two warehouses that are currently on the property.
All right, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right, great, thank you. Are there any persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Did you fill out a green comment sheet?
No.
Okay, before you leave, if you would do us a favor, there's one on the table out there where the folks are standing, and just fill it out, and if you'll give it to Ms. Shelby up here.
Okay, will do.
If you'll just state your name and your address.
Harry St. Clair, 1009 North Main. I own the 11.19 acres on the north side of that property. I'm all for that tower, first of all. I think it's a good idea. The only thing is that I see that the south property line of the property we're talking about next door and the east side property line were addressed having to do with basically screening, but not the north side. I have a commercial piece of property. This tower is going to fall, I think, more towards the, definitely not commercial as both our properties are, but more towards the industrial side of it, which is okay because on the future land use map, it does show those two properties as industrial. So again, I'm okay with the tower. I just think that because right now I do have commercial property, I think maybe we can, if somehow we could recommend on the north side, maybe like I know down the road, maybe about a mile down, not too long ago, on the storage facility park that was okayed. I think you all put trees at every 100 feet. I think something like that for the 1,300 feet deep would be something that would maybe be recommended, something between 50 and 100 feet for screening purposes, because my intent is to do something commercial on my property, not industrial. But that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Staff, commission, applicant discussion. Does anyone have any comments? You still had some time, so we'll go with that being left.
Okay.
We'll trade. You fill out the green card, you can finish your minute and 20.
Okay. So the concern again on that back area was on the reason for screening also is because if I see one tower going up, I can see multiple towers coming up here in the near future. If one is let in, I can see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them before you know it. So I think for me anyway, screening would be very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Commissioners, any comments, discussion?
Yeah, I'm for it.
I think it's a good location for it. As far as the screening and stuff, I mean, look, I know that everybody wants trees and stuff around things and stuff, but if you're putting some type of chain link fence up around it, you know, you put some type of filler in the fence or something to hide all the workings down at the bottom. There's really no way you're going to be able to screen a 104-foot tower. And, you know, it's going to be sticking out there like a sore thumb. So, you know, there's really nothing that you're going to be able to do that's really going to help with it. You know, it's in the age that we live in. We want these phones. We want the coverage and stuff. So we've got to deal with what that comes with. But if I was voting, I would be voting for it.
I would be in favor for this as well. I think as different areas in Pearland, cell phone reception is terrible. So I do like the idea of adding an additional tower because it's absolutely needed. I know that it was proposed for a chain link fence. I would be more so aligned with the recommendation that staff had for that masonry fencing in terms of a buffer. I do agree as well concerning, I know the citizen requested 50 to 100 feet of buffering. Again, I think because of the height of this particular tower that might be difficult, but I think with that proposed masonry fence that staff is proposing, that would assist with the buffering, and I think that would be sufficient. So yes, I'm in favor of it, not necessarily in favor of a chain link fence. Thank you.
If I were voting for it, I would be voting for it as staff has proposed, with the masonry screening.
Just a question to staff. I'm going to say the time frame was 2009 to 2012. The Planning and Zoning Commission and staff got together and we discussed screening. We discussed all sorts of things. We added it to the UDC. Is that the current rules and regulations that's still in place?
I will gladly admit that I have a little bit of a knowledge gap there. It's been a hot minute since I've studied the UDC text amendments. But I can tell you that the current screening, you know, specifically, we would look at what's at ground level. You know, we fully acknowledge, even within the tower section, that you can't always screen for something that's much larger than what our trees around here naturally grow to.
Okay. Well, the reason where I was going with that, I just wanted to make sure from the conversation, what I recall, some of our intent was back then was, of course, to encourage the cell phone tower users or new applicants to please go and try to, you know, co-share on another tower. Like this one shows one user now, I believe it was T-Mobile, and then future users. So the encouragement was always, hey, instead of a new cell tower, which back then they were just trying to get another one up, was to you know, encourage the sharing thereof. In fact, I think we put one on a city, the one off of Cullen, the city water tower. There's some, instead of a cell phone tower, we utilized the height of that and you know, saved another one out there. In this case, I think there isn't one right there nearby. Well, we also asked if they could possibly go on to the towers, the electrical, especially those mammoth ones along the Beltway. I'm assuming the answer is no, that y'all have tried that and they're not willing to share anymore. Just because you're not near the mic, the answer was affirmative. So a good location then. I appreciate that it's behind the buildings rather than on the road. The one that was recently built on Cullen, south of Broadway is right there on the road, give or take 40 feet off the main road, and it's visible. And I mean, honestly, for me to say I would like a masonry fence around this one, the other one, you drive by it and you're looking up at it going, "Ugh, oh, well, there it is." And then you look and you see a little masonry thing. It, you know, it doesn't, it's kind of like lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. But again, just as Commissioner Eisenberg said, this is a necessity. In our daily lives today, everybody's glued to their phones. So I've kind of gone in a circle only to say, this is so far off the main road, I don't really care if it has masonry around it. It doesn't do the intent or meet the intent that we had back in 2000 and I'm going to say again, 8 or 9 to 12. The intent was if it's visible from the road, if it was, if we could hide the mechanic or mechanical parts and portions of the cell tower, it was that much better. That we really can't do anything going north or straight up. Unless you were willing to put in one of those flagpole looking things, or I think they have pine tree looking towers. But again, I digress, and I recommend approval, and I'm really not that, it doesn't give me heartburn that if it were a chain link fence in the area that it's in. On the other hand, we have a neighbor wishing that it was, masonry product or some other screening on the north side. So I do sympathize with that as well.
I would be for it as well. Only caveat to that would be look at some additional screening. If the tower behind Killen's Hamburgers, has been there a little while. Now it's grandfathered in probably by some of the regulations. I'm looking at a photo on Google from 2023. Actually it was taken 7 months ago, and it has a wood fence around it. So, and you can see it pretty well from 35. I mean, it's pretty, it stands out pretty well. So anyways, I would be in approval of it if we could get to somewhere on some possible additional screening on the bottom as well, outside of the chain link. I do agree that even if you did chain link, you can put those fillers in it, and that might be sufficient. And they're pretty, you can't see through those pretty well. I do appreciate the additional screening opportunity for the landowner to the north. It would be nice if that was available as well, since they are here and have requested that to be at least addressed or discussed. So thankfully that's probably a council discussion, being as how they're going to take this to the next level. But, on record, we do appreciate you being here and speaking your mind on it. So we've got 5 affirmatives. Is that correct? Sum it up. All right. All right. That's how we would end that item on the agenda, item number 4. We will move to item number 7, discussion items. Commissioners' activity report. Anything to report from the commissioners? No activities?
We had something a time or two ago, and I think, Daryl, you brought it up. Did you ever get a second and get that on the agenda?
We did have our CPAC meeting last Wednesday. If Martin wanted to speak on that, it was enthralling. 2 hours on the nose, I would like to say. 8:00.
I think we had good leadership at that meeting.
To glad to hear that, I guess.
Steward the conversation forward. We had a really good conversation about the future land use categories, the place types, and the ability for future development of Pearland. And Kimberly Horn is working diligently to make all of those edits, and then get the map sent back over.
Great, thank you. Next, P and Z regular meeting is scheduled for February 20th, 2023. Does anyone know they're unavailable, unable to attend at this time?
It's not official yet. It probably will be this week, but it will most likely be in PEDC because council will be having a regular meeting on that date as well.
It's President's Day. If it's President's Day, bankers don't work on that day. Just putting that out there. No, I mean,
Do they volunteer?
voluntarily don't work. Yeah, that's what they do. No, as long as I'm in town, I will be here. With kids being out of school too, that'd be the only variance. But we'd have to be back at school on Tuesday, so I hope he'd be here. So, all right. Anybody else?
Yes, one other thing. Did y'all look at it? I had mentioned some signage, on the on zone changes and when we were posting it and stuff, and y'all were going to look it up to making it a discussion item.
I think we got your request in a day or two after that. However, we did not get the second that you thought was going to come in.
Okay, we'll get a second in.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to, if anybody feels otherwise, we're going to adjourn at 7:31 p.m. Thank you for your time.
Welcome back, virtual campers. MK here with our Camp at Home series. This week's theme is H2O Adventures. Our water weeks are the most popular weeks we have in camp. So instead of showing